Hello and welcome to another episode of Benrolins Blueprint Podcast. I'm your host, Benrolins Awandem. And today's gonna be a different type of episode because we have someone who is really great. I consider him a genius, even though sometimes he kind of want not to be the smartest guy in the room. Every room he walks in, he's the smartest guy. And he's a father, he's a war veteran, and he's no other person than Mr. Robert Owens. Mr. Robert, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm good today. I got enough sleep, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
I just started night shift last week, so I'm adjusting to it.
So how is night shift, by the way?
Well, I worked night shift for 3 years as a tier one
Mm-hmm.
before I got promoted to leadership. So it's actually my home.
Oh, it's your home.
So I've been telling everyone I'm going back home because I know everyone who's on night shift.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I just want to step back and go back to Mr. Owens when he was a kid, like 5 years old. How was life like growing up as a kid?
At 5 years old,
Mm-hmm.
I was all about GI Joes. At that point in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I made complete stories, backgrounds, and told stories with my GI Joes, and it'd be like an episodic event every day. And like other kids would come over, and they would be aware that I created these stories and these worlds for them, and they would join in and have fun with it.
Oh, oh wow, that's so cool. So I'm growing up as a kid. Were there some lessons that you learned that stay with you today, or
As a 5-year-old,
yeah, as a 5 year old?
that's pretty early. Um, as a 5-year-old, I don't think there's too many like life lessons
Mm-hmm.
that I learned.
Because people always say when you're 5 years old, like from 5 years growing up, you anything you learn from as a kid are going to stay with you. Like everything you hear people always say about you, like stuck with you. There's nothing that you remember as a kid that is you still learn.
No, I'm always changing myself and like reevaluating my values and my goals. So, um, the things that I thought as a 5-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
I would have readjusted from that point because they
Got
wouldn't
you.
be valid going forward into the future. Now, like as far as like creating stories and environments and stuff like that, I still maintain that. I
Mm-hmm.
actually have like a role playing group that we do like twice a month, and we go in and I have like it's called Baltimore by Night,
Mm-hmm.
and basically there's like 6 vampires inside of Baltimore running things behind the window, and we like role play into that world.
Oh wow, that's really cool. So as a kid growing up, did you grow up with your dad, or was it just like a single parent? How did you grow up?
I grew up with my mother and then a stepdad that came in at 1, so he was there before I could um, before I like realized I didn't have a father.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had my stepsister when I was about 3 or 4. And so I grew up with a husband and wife and a sister, pretty normal nuclear family.
Mm-hmm. So how was life growing up in the family? Did you feel like, oh, no one had your time, or your mom was really there with you?
I was mostly by myself. Like I said, I like creating stories with either GI Joes, and as I grew older, I grew into like X-Men and made
Mm-hmm.
stories like that. And then I would just read books, and then I would write my own stories. Is what it developed into, like as I hit like 10, 12, and 14. But I never really like connected with a lot of people in my family,
Mm-hmm.
mentally anyway. Um, like my dad, he did like sheet metal work, never read any books, never went to college.
Mm-hmm.
My mom doesn't read books, never went to college. In fact, nobody like in my like family read books or went to college. Like when I started going to college, I had to learn everything from scratch. They had no idea, even something as simple as applying for financial aid. I
Wow.
had to like figure all that out myself, and even how to apply to it. So a lot of the things that I've learned as far as like life lessons,
Mm-hmm.
it was trial and error.
Wow, really?
hmm
So you learned most of your lessons when you got to college, or where do you learn most of your lessons from?
Well, I grew up before the internet.
Oh, oh
So
man, that's true.
yeah, so a lot of it was just like reading books.
Mm-hmm.
And then in like the mid 90s, when the internet started coming out, I was one of the first ones to like jump on it and start exploring with it. And then like it was like Yahoo back then, like Yahoo chat groups and things like that. And then once the internet really started taking off, my knowledge really took off, because you all the information for the world was accessible at that point to me, not just what books that I could find.
Oh,
I could research any subject. Like on a Sunday night, I could just be like, I don't want to wonder what the last 200 years of Baghdad history was, and I would just go on a binge.
okay. So, you're a war veteran. At what age did you join the army?
17.
At 17 years old.
Yeah, so I was still a child.
Oh, you were still a kid.
Mm-hmm.
What made you make that decision?
Well, I sort of like did really well as a kid. I got my black belt at 15. I graduated high school at 16 and a half. And like I said, my family didn't have a lot of money for me to like, just go to college. So I joined mostly for the college at 17. And I joined before 9/11.
Mm. Oh wow.
So when I joined the army, I thought it was going to be this sham thing. I go in there for 3 years, I do my drills, I do some push-ups and stuff like that. And then I leave and join the army. That's what I thought was going to happen. And then 6 months after I joined the army was 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, when the incident happened during the 9/11 or during the 9/11 disaster, where were you at?
I was at Aberdeen Proving Ground. And when it happened, I heard it over the radio and I thought it was a joke or something like that. And I actually mentioned to someone, could you imagine if this was real? What would be happening? And at that point, I started learning that it was real. The entire base got locked down. Nobody was allowed on the base. Nobody was allowed to leave the base. And then we had like 50 cows pointed right at every gate because we didn't know what was going on
Wow.
during 9/11. We didn't know the extent of these attacks. We knew that the Pentagon was hit and, things like that. So we didn't know what extent it was. We didn't know who did it. For all we knew at the time, it could have been Russia or China or something like that. We had no idea. There was a lot of speculation because nobody knew anything. So we just locked down everything and we were ready to roll at that point.
So after 9/11, where were you then? Where did they send you to?
Well, I was still at Aberdeen. I was stationed at Aberdeen Proving Ground. So you just don't immediately get up and go. You're still stationed at the same place. So it took a couple days for us to really figure out what happened after 9/11. And then we realized it was an insurgent, terrorist group in the Middle East. But I was still stationed in Aberdeen Proving Ground. And life kind of just went back to normal after that.
So, how long were you on the station? You said Aberdeen Station Ground. So, how long were you there before like moving to the Middle East?
It was a while because the military didn't go to the Middle East immediately after 9/11. Like special forces guys did, but regular active duty army, we didn't go there for like a couple years. It was a while.
It was a while.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move now to the Middle East. When you got to the Middle East, how was life like being out of your country, out of your comfort zone? Were there some things you had to like adapt to when you got to the Middle East, or life was just normal for you?
It's weird going to a different country because you expect to be in a different world, and you get there, and you're like, oh wow, these people, they're just like us. They might speak a different language, but they're friendly, they eat food, they listen to music. So it was kind of culture shock that it wasn't as different that I thought it was going to be. Going to Kuwait is where the first place I went. But there's diesel fuel everywhere because it was military. But day-to-day life was pretty much the same. You eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You train a little bit. We were getting ready for like gas attacks because prior Iraq gassed Iran with nerve gas. And to do that was kind of fun. We would put on gas masks and we would play football.
Wow.
And we would play the football with the gas masks.
How old were you at that time?
No. When I went to Kuwait, I was 19.
Oh, 19.
Hmm. But like we were just out there playing football, and I would go to sleep with the gas mask on and just condition yourself because it at first it kind of feels like you're suffocating with a gas mask on because you're not getting as much oxygen,
Hmm.
but you just have to learn to calm down, and then you won't require as much oxygen. But it's really easy to panic in it.
Yeah, like most people at 19, they're still trying to find their self worth or self value. They don't really know who they are, and they don't know what life is. So at that point in your life, what was running through your mind, being in that situation where, like you don't really know what you're going to? What was there like a mission when you got to Kuwait, or was just like, oh, you guys are stationed here, and you don't know where you're gonna go from there? Where you're gonna go to next?
So we had to wait for the order to invade. I went to Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
and I lived on the Kuwaiti border for 2 months. And every day we were waiting for the order to invade.
Mm-hmm.
And it was about 2 months that we were just on the border, about 5 miles out. And then we finally get the word. Well, we didn't get the word that we were going to invade. The way that we knew is we started getting handed the ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
I got handed a few boxes. I was a 50 cal gunner,
Mm-hmm.
and I got handed a few boxes of 50 cal rounds. I had my M16. I had about 300 rounds for that. And everybody knew at that point we were invading pretty soon because they don't like handing out the rounds. Like dudes were getting grenades and things like that. So that night, I slept on top of my deuce. It was like a big truck with a tarp on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I slept on top of it. And literally about 500 helicopters flew to the border and bombed the border. And you just seen explosions in the background.
Wow.
And I watched it for like 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour. And then I fell asleep while the explosions were going on.
Dang. Sleep?
So I slept through a complete aerial bombardment of 500 helicopters
How
on
do
the
you
border
sleep?
because I was tired.
Damn.
In the military, you get up real early. I might have been up at 6 a.m. So by like 1 a.m., I was pretty tired. And you knew that the next day it was going to be another 15, 16 hours of driving and doing whatever. So if you don't sleep now, you're not going to get any sleep.
So as you're sleeping, what's running through your mind when that's happening?
I remember telling my friends, because as a 50 cal gunner, you can take out vehicles very easily. You can level a building with that thing. And I remember telling my friends that I felt responsible for their protection. And I told them, anyone who shoots at us, I'm going to initiate immediately, whether it's a female or even like a 15-year-old kid. If he starts firing at us, I'm going to protect you guys. That was my mission. Just like if we were all working at Amazon, imagine all your Amazon people.
Mm-hmm.
I feel responsible for your safety. I'm going to protect you.
Yeah.
So I went into that black and white attitude. There was no gray. If you shot at us, to me, you were a video game NPC that needed to be taken out.
Mm-hmm. So, man, like everything you just said now just blew my mind, bro. But anyways, moving on. I just want to find out, like, as a 19-year-old kid, and I'm gonna take myself as an example. When I was 19, I was still trying to like figure life out. But you, in your own situation, you're already somewhere. Or like, let me assume you're already having a purpose. Like, hey, I'm a U.S. Army now. I'm in charge of the safety of my country. I got to secure my country's interests. And you find yourself in a situation where, oh, you might not even survive. Is it kind of like is there a brotherhood in the military where one person got to look after the other person and vice versa?
Oh yeah, it's really a big family because everything is taken care for you in the Army. Like there's cooks that cook for you.
Mm-hmm.
There's commo guys that set up your internet so you can talk to your family. There's MPs that do security on the bases so you can sleep well at night knowing that you're safe. There's guys who all they do is get fuel and they drive to Kuwait when the fuel truck fill it up and bring it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has their own individual job. Some guys kick down doors, some guys fly helicopters, and we all need to work together to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if someone as what they say is unimportant as a cook is just as important as the F-16 pilot because we need food. So it's all one big system, and the army takes care of everything for you, so you
Mm-hmm.
can concentrate. I didn't have to worry about paying rent. I didn't have to worry about where my next meal was. I didn't have to worry about any of that. It's all taken care of for me.
Mm-hmm.
All I have to worry about is completing the mission and making it home safe. Like there's a big quote from the 1940s. I forget who said it,
Mm-hmm.
but he said, "Your mission isn't to die for your country. Your mission is for the other guy to die for his country."
Oh, got you. Wow. Man, if I don't continue with the story, people are going to be so mad at me. So I want to continue. When you were sleeping in the truck, like you said earlier on, what was the next step? What was the next step the next day? What you guys do?
So the next morning, we woke up, we had our breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
and then we got in our vehicles and we just drove to the border.
Mm-hmm.
And I still remember the signs that say you are entering Iraq and things like this. And we would drive through the border, and there would be not only blown up checkpoints there, but there would be flipped over tanks still on fire, burned bodies. Like you could see they were trying to crawl out of the tank and things. So I wasn't the first day, I was the second day.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at the time in an air defense artillery unit.
Mm-hmm.
Our job was to shoot down enemy missiles, enemy aircraft. So the tanks would be in front of us,
Mm-hmm.
and then we were air defense behind the tanks. So if any F-16s tried to take out the tanks or Scud missiles tried to take out the tanks, it was our job to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
So the Air Force would go in first, bomb it. The tanks would roll in behind them, take out whatever's left, and we're air defense. So if they try to counterattack, that's our job. And then behind us, there's other dudes. There's like logistics guys with like fuel and food and stuff like that. But we were like kind of in the middle. So we were just driving for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
and we shot down. I think it was like 25 out of the 26 Scud missiles that were fired at us.
Mm-hmm.
We missed one, and I was told that it hit like a civilian infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
but we took down most of them, and that was our job.
So when you're going into that situation, how do you know the enemy and someone who is just innocent?
And that was a very difficult thing going forward. The initial invasion,
Mm-hmm.
we weren't fighting terrorists.
Mm-hmm.
We were fighting the Iraqi army.
Mm-hmm.
They had tanks. They had the Special Forces Medina Division with night vision goggles. They were wearing uniforms. My first time. I went there 3 times, but that was my first time there. So they were really easy to identify at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
because they wore uniforms. So for that initial one, you would look for anyone who would shoot at you, for one.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, anyone who would shoot at you, because there was guerrilla tactics even in the beginning. But that first time, they haven't invented IEDs yet when I was there. So I was there before IEDs. Like, for example, I remember one of my friends was married and her husband lived at a base 200 miles away. Me and her just dropped in a Humvee and we drove for 3 hours to another base, not a care in the world.
Wow.
And that's how it was like before the IEDs came.
Damn.
The IEDs came towards the end of my first deployment.
Wow, man. Like everything, I'm just blown away because I'm just a civilian. I mean, I've been through some challenges in my life, but nothing close to what you've just explained right now. It's really hard, and self discipline. I want to tackle self discipline. Did being in the army like teach you to be a disciplined person?
It definitely helped.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't fully create a sense of self-discipline because there is guys in the army without self-discipline. There's plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely helps. It gets you in a routine. It, forces you to clean and be very, very clean. Like they would come and they would see like a very well-placed and dressed up room like this, and they would say it was dirty. Like they would run their fingers on the back of something like that, find some dust, and like, oh, this place is filthy. So like you had to clean really well. And you had to keep your weight up. You had to like PT, and you had to like make standards as far as how many push-ups and sit-ups. You had to do a 2 mile run, and it was like under 15 minutes. You had to do a 4 mile run in under like 35 minutes, I think, like that. So it takes practice and self discipline to keep that up because it's so easy just to sit on the couch and watch TV and play video games.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to like, all right, I need to get my PT score. I need to get my push ups faster. I need my 2 mile run to be a little bit shorter. Because there's incentives for getting your PT score up, like you get promoted faster.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Oh, wow, that's good. And I want to find out from you about when you let's just assume when you're in war, right? How was life like? Thinking about your family. Did you communicate with your family, and how was that? How did the communication flow?
So in 2003, the internet really wasn't what it is today. Like
Mm-hmm.
this is before smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
You know, cell phones were just buttons on a phone, so there was nothing like that. There was no like messenger that you could contact them with. So there was a phone and like one phone, and there might be like 30, 40 people in line, and you could call home for like 5 minutes and
Mm-hmm.
talk to them after waiting in a line for maybe an hour or two, and talk to them for a few minutes, and that
Mm-hmm.
was it. And you might be able to do that once or twice a month. That's
Once or
it.
twice a month.
That's the only communication. So because it took like 2 hours, I just didn't feel like doing it
So
half
you're
the
not talking
time.
to anybody.
I mean, I called home like
Mm-hmm.
maybe 3 or 4 times, but it's such a hassle because like your work a 12-hour shift, and you just don't feel like waiting in line for 2 hours. But the mail is the main way that I talk to my family. Like I would write messages,
Mm-hmm.
and I would mail that home, and they would mail me back stuff.
So when you were in the war when the war was going on, did you think, oh, this might be the end?
No, I don't think anyone below 20 thinks about mortality. We all think we're invincible and we're gonna live forever, like until like your mid 20s, late 20s. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When you're 19 years old, you are a well-oiled machine.
Mm-hmm.
You think you never get old, you never die. So I know it sounds weird, I guess, but when you're in Iraq, you just don't think you're gonna be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
You think you're going to be faster than the other guy. You think you're going to be more accurate than the other guy, which they were pretty inaccurate over there.
Okay, being a civilian now, what are some of the lessons you learned from the military that is helping you out today?
Staying in shape is something, I mean, I have a little bit of weight on me now, but staying in shape is something that carried over from the military. Like I can still run. Nobody can run with me because when I run for like 2 hours straight.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and like people like, hey, you want to run with me? And I'm like, oh, sure, sure, sure. And a lot of people don't run and they think it's easy, and then like literally like a couple minutes in, they're like hands on their knees, tired. But like I'm on a whole nother level. Like we might have run for 4 miles in like half an hour, and I'm still ready to go for another hour or so of running.
Wow.
Now, I haven't done that much recently because I've been working like 50 to 60 hours at Amazon. So I've been pretty tired. And then we have the baby. I have a baby. So even when I get off work, I have to feed her and, give her a bath, things like that. So
Oh,
I
wow.
just don't have the time anymore. But like when I go on vacation to the Philippines or on a cruise ship, I'll run for like 30 minutes here and there.
So, running is something you really love doing.
Oh yeah, keeping your heart healthy is extremely important. Um, so many, even like athletes die of heart disease. Like power lifters die in their 20s from heart disease. Guys that are like 400 pounds of muscle might not even be able to run half a mile. Their heart just can't handle it. So if you want to live long and healthy, you have to have a healthy heart.
Oh, wow, that's true. Because sometimes people will disregard
Mm.
their health. They'll be like, "Oh no, you just want soda." before you know, they take another bottle, they take another bottle, they take another bottle, and all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, I'm overweight."
Yeah, yeah,
And the only time they're gonna take action is when the doctor say, "Oh, you got 6 months left." We're
yeah.
like, "Damn."
Hmm.
That's when they want to be like, "Oh, I want to start taking actions now." Before we started recording the show today, you were talking about dopamine withdrawal, and I think the audience are going to learn a lot from that. I want you to share some light on dopamine withdrawal.
Uh, I call it dopamine withdrawal. I don't think that's the official name for it, but
Uh huh.
I feel like that's a good term. So I would use an example that almost anyone has the capability of reading a 400-page book.
Mm-hmm.
They can open it, they can read the letters. Actually sitting down and reading a 400-page book is something 90% of the people just cannot do.
Nah.
They need that constant hit of
Mm-hmm.
dopamine.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it takes a lot of willpower for dopamine withdrawal. Dopamine withdrawal would just be taking away your cell phone, taking away all electronics,
Mm-hmm.
and just sitting in the park
Mm-hmm.
and watching the birds,
Mm-hmm.
watching the ducks, watching the people walk by. No stimulus at all other than that. Do it for 30 minutes, maybe an hour. And maybe like only once or twice a month, maybe sometimes bring a book and read it there. But you're ridding yourself of that constant dopamine because you have receptors for those dopamines, and when you're constantly at a high level, the receptors they get less sensitive for it. But if you limit your dopamine to
Mm-hmm.
almost nothing, and I'm not saying like every day or even every week, but even just once in a while, you get used to it, and it helps like reset your receptors for the dopamine.
Oh, for those watching, some people don't know what dopamine is. Can you help them out?
Huh?
Some people don't know what dopamine is. Can
Oh,
you help them out?
oh yeah, go. Oh, you want me to?
Yeah.
Dopamine is just like it's a chemical reward system that your body gives you. For example, like if you're hungry and you eat something, you feel a little bit good about it.
Mm-hmm.
That would be dopamine.
Dopamine hit.
Or like surfing on your phone or something like that gives you a bit of a hit of dopamine.
Wow, that's good. And then how about walking out?
Working out gives you like a very healthy dopamine,
Mm-hmm.
especially like running. If you go and run for 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
you will get a natural high for like a day and a half. You just feel great for like a day and a half. It's like a natural high.
Yeah, that's true because what you just said is true. Like I play soccer.
Mm-hmm.
When I play soccer and let's just assume 2 days down the line I don't do anything, I feel really good. But after a week or so, you feel like
Yeah.
I need to go back again. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so that's why. And I want to talk about life outside the military. How was it like when you left the military after 12 years and coming back to civilian life? Was it difficult to adapt, or were you just like, oh, I've been here before, let me just go?
No, it was very, very difficult. It was a huge wisdom experience for me because when I was leaving the military, I was leaving it with my 2 daughters that I had custody of.
Mm.
I was a single father without a job with 2 daughters moving into my mom's house.
Wow.
So I had to leave the military because as a single father, as a single parent, you can't do the military because if you have to leave for a week or 2 weeks or 6 months, it creates issues. So it's very hard to be a single parent in the military. So I had to make the decision of staying in the military, having a nice retirement, having a lot of money, or raising my 2 daughters. So I chose them.
So you went to the military married?
No, I got married while in the military,
Oh, you got married when
Mhm.
while you were in the
and
military.
then divorced also.
So what was the major factor? What was the major cause of your divorce?
Just so I was gone, and there was like a child neglect because she never cleaned or cooked or things like that. So
Mhm.
I actually got pulled back from what I was doing to come home and clean,
Oh,
and
wow.
that was like the last straw. Because she didn't, my ex-wife, she didn't work. She was home all day. She just didn't cook or clean and things like that. So I ended up getting custody of the kids.
Mhm.
And then I left the military, went to live with my mom, and oh, it was night and day because now I was a single parent raising the children, the two girls,
Mm-hmm.
and I found a job, and I just had that work life balance. And at the time, like it's hard to find a significant other as a single father with two children. It's
Mm-hmm.
a kind of a weird thing. So I just accepted that I was going to be alone.
Oh.
Um, and I would go home. You know, I would work, and I would go home, and I would I would read, or I would better myself. Nobody around. Go to a movie by myself. Go sit in the park and watch ducks by myself. And it took a while, but after I started doing it, it was so freeing and
Mm-hmm.
awesome that I could just do whatever I wanted and nobody could say no.
Wow.
If I wanted to just sit, and watch boats and birds for an hour, go out to Olive Garden and get like a $6 meal and watch some Marvel movie,
Mm-hmm.
I could just do it and nobody could say no.
Wow, that's great. Like on this podcast, I've been saying that being alone and learning about yourself, just trying to develop yourself, adding value to yourself helps you a lot. And just adding to what you're saying right now, it's really good. And from what you just said, do you think it helped you a lot, like even when you're going into the relationship you're in right now?
It does, because you're not as needy. For example, if I want to go do something, my wife Rose, I don't need her to come with me.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't want to. Like if there's a Marvel, like in the Philippines, she wanted to go out with her friends, but there was a Marvel movie I wanted to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Burger King. I ate, a Whopper, and I read a book for an hour while waiting for the movie to start. And then I went and watched the movie. And then we had like a pool, and I would go swimming without her.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just free. It's freedom. Freedom for your own mind. You're not shackled to home unless somebody comes with you. You can not only go out, but enjoy it
Mm-hmm.
and have fun and be happy by yourself. And no one can take that from you. Once you can go out and be happy and have a great time,
Mm-hmm.
no one can take that.
Now, what advice would you give somebody who is going through this similar challenge you went through previously, and is saying, "Oh, I'm having a hard time finding a lover or anything." What are you going to tell the person to do? Are you going to tell the person to lay back and just relax, love yourself, add value to yourself, or you got to go chase another person?
And you definitely have to learn how to love yourself. You can
Mm-hmm.
never love someone until you love yourself. You have to find what makes you happy, whether that's swimming, whether that's watching movies at the theater, whether that's singing karaoke, or or you have to find what makes you happy,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be happy being by yourself, because if you're not happy being by yourself, you're going to find whatever you can to fill that void.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to judge the person whether they're going to improve your life. You're going to judge them by, are they going to just accept me?
Mm-hmm.
And a million people is going to accept you, but you want to find someone who's going to improve upon yourself,
Yeah.
because one day you're going to be old. You're going to be 60 and 70, and maybe you hurt your hand and you can't even wipe your own butt. And you need to be confident that the person you're picking is willing to do that,
Mm-hmm.
at least every once in a while.
Yeah. So you're gonna tell the person to lay back and add value to yourself. Know who you are first before trying to give yourself to somebody.
Yeah, because if you just go out, you're just going to find anybody, and you
Mm-hmm.
just don't want anybody.
Do you believe in the saying that you attract who you impress?
You attract
Who you impress?
who you impress.
Uh-huh.
Like you're attracted to who you impress.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know someone's interested in you, it does make them a little bit more attractive in
Mhm.
your opinion. But
Mhm.
like I said, there's 10 million people that's going to be interested in you, so there's no reason to rush.
Mhm. So take your time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because this is what's going to happen. You're going to find someone. He he might get in arguments all the time. He might be needy. And then 6 months later, you're going to find this perfect guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's going to have everything you want, every box that you have. It's going to be checked.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in a relationship now
Yeah.
with someone you don't even like.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Perfect, he don't want to be with you because you're already in a relationship, because he's not that type of guy to break up a relationship. So you found your perfect person, and now you can't have him because you took whatever you wanted first.
Yeah. Wow. So I want to go back. Why you were trying to add value to yourself, like loving yourself, learning a lot. Did you have any saying or any thought at that point that, hey, I'm not going to like be in another relationship again, or were you like, no, I'm adventurous, I'm going to eventually find someone along the line?
I did have a saying, but it wasn't that. My saying was, no one is going to come save me.
Gotcha.
As a 30-year-old man with 2 children, no one's coming to save me.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get my own apartment. I had to get my own job. I had to, pay for everything, electricity, everything, my home, the food, entertainment. It all either had to come from me or it just wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that to other people that are single. Don't wait for someone to save you. No one's coming to save you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to save yourself.
So you got to take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I got you. So at what point did you say, oh, being alone is not for me? I want to try to share this value that I am right now with somebody.
It took like 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I was happy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't need anyone. I was playing Minecraft with my kids, going out to watch the movies, doing whatever I want. I was in Dart League. And I was like, it would be fun, to find someone, to hang with me.
Mm-hmm.
Bonus points if they could work too and double my income.
Income.
So I started looking around. I was very patient. And I wanted someone who's minimum my equal,
Mm-hmm.
because I cook and clean because I was a single father. If I didn't do it, nobody did it. So I needed someone who was my equal. They needed to be able to cook. They needed to be able to clean. I didn't want anyone else who would just sit around and just wait for me to do it. I wanted my equal, whether that's financially my equal, or as like homemaking my equal, is what I really wanted. I wanted someone at least my equal.
So was it difficult finding that equal? Was it difficult finding your equal?
Oh no, that's the fun part.
It was a fun part.
Like searching is the fun part. It wasn't difficult. Like I might have looked at 20, 30 people, and then I would narrow down the list to like 10. Then I would narrow down the list to like 3, and then I picked Roselle, which was my favorite one out of them.
So that's really interesting. Were you going out on date with a with a pen and a list, like, hey, can you cook?
It was very methodical. Very methodical, slow and methodical. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's really good. So, how did you find your special one?
So, like I said, I was just going through looking at habits and hobbies. Roselle, what brought me to her is she was always happy and always laughing and jovial, joking. She didn't let anything get her down for long. Any challenges that occurred, that she would take care of immediately, which I respected. And then I went to see her, and she did like all the paperwork for everything. Like, and I can be kind of lazy with like paperwork sometimes, and so she's almost like my secretary. Like even now, she pays all the bills, like all the bills, bro. Like she'll
I
take.
love that.
I have an allotment that goes into a separate bank account of SoFi of like $600 a week, and anything over that, is for me. But the $600 she takes and she pays every bill. I don't pay anything. The most I pay for is like gasoline for the car.
Oh wow, that's really good. So you just trust that, oh, she's gonna take care of it.
She does. She
Yeah,
does.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And that's really great. And then when it comes to like finances, because one of the leading factors for divorce nowadays is money.
hmm
They don't People really don't agree when it comes to money. How do you really tackle that in your relationship?
Well, like I said, we have a separate account just for bills, and then we have a separate account for what we want to do. So I might get $1,200, and 600 goes into the bills account, and $600 I can do whatever I want with, and she has the same setup.
Mm.
And then we make enough where we have like 2 condos in the Philippines that we bought. We have our house here. It's like a 3-bedroom house. It's got like a little bit of farmland on the side, corner lot, and we're only paying $1,050 a month for it. And it's close enough that I can bike ride to work.
Oh wow, that's really good, man. That's really good. I really like that because sometimes we have to have a sense of unity with one another. Nowadays, when people get married, they're just like, oh, your money is our money, my money is my money, and they don't really think about the other person. So, and it's mostly competition instead of empowering one another. So like, let us grow together instead of like, oh no, I'm better than you. It's nowadays it's more of like competing against one another. Do you think we got to step back and start thinking about being united, or we just follow the trend?
Well, yeah, your spouse is not your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
If she's your enemy, something's very wrong. It's your teammate. So I didn't buy my PS5. She bought it with completely her money.
Wow.
She bought my mom a 75-inch TV last week, and we surprised her. She bought my mom like 2 bouquets, but instead of flowers, it was $1 bills, and there was like 50 of them in there. And she gave one to my mom and one to my sister. Like Roselle does things like that. For example, we're planning we plan our vacations 1 to 2 years out.
Wow. I like that.
Because you buy the vacation a year out, and then you save up money, and you buy little things. So when you're like 3 to 6 months away from the vacation, it's completely paid for, and all the little things are paid for also. So we're planning. It depends how big it is too. Like we have a small 3-day vacation we're planning to Las Vegas next year. We already agreed. She's by the hotel, I buy the flight.
I like that. Oh man, partnership. That's what makes everything work together. So I want to go back to, oh no, rather, I want to. You just laid something about vacation. I want to talk about work-life balance. How, like Amazon obviously, there's a lot of hours. Maybe if you're doing overtime, how do you balance that? Especially night shift. You got a kid, you got a wife. How do you balance all your relationships, working in a company or in a shift like night?
So nights and day doesn't really matter to me.
It don't really matter.
It doesn't, because if I'm up at night, then I'll let my kids like stay up at night with me. They're adjust to me because my 2 daughters are homeschooled. And well, in fact, my 15-year-old just finished high school, and she was accepted into college now at 15, which is pretty cool.
That's
So she's very flexible. But in the wintertime is my grind, because there's really not much to do in the wintertime. I work, eat, sleep, play video games, and that's it. So I'll work like 50, 60 hours from November to like March. And then in the summertime, that's the time I take time off. So I save all my time up. And in the summertime, we'll get like season passes to Six Flags. We'll go to the Philippines. We'll go to the Bahamas. That's my time. And so we do it like that. I'll have a grind period for like 3, 4, 5 months maybe. And then we'll have a relaxed period where I only work 40 hours at most for several weeks. Maybe like, even 30 hours sometimes, because we'll have a large capital built up.
Hey, just spend time with family.
Yeah. And then when it starts getting 30 degrees again, like now I'm like, okay, we're in grind mode again.
Oh man, you just everything you just said is on point, and I'm taking notes too as well, because you're really great, and your wisdom is something I think is peculiar. And I want to thank you for coming to the show today. My audience, the audience of Benrolins Blueprints, are really going to learn a lot from you. And I want to lay back and talk about fatherhood because when we look at the landscape, and I always try to talk about fatherhood when I meet someone that I consider a genuine father. And if you look at the landscape, you're going to discover that most dads are not home. Do you think is a sense of responsibility like, oh, most guys are not responsible nowadays? They're just running away. They don't want to take responsibility, take ownership of the situation.
I would never generalize like an entire sex like that
Mm-hmm.
because I am not the only single father.
Mm-hmm.
Times are changing. There's a lot of single fathers out there. There's like support groups. They're on Reddit. There's like single father subreddits and
No,
things
no,
like
I'm not
that.
saying single fathers. What I'm trying to say is, like if you see the landscape nowadays, most fathers are not home. Like they let the ladies take care of the kid, and
Hmm.
they're like, oh no, that's a woman's thing. Let her take care of the kid. And sometimes a guy might go into let's just assume a relationship, and they have a kid out of maybe they were not planning out of wedlock or something, and they don't abort the baby, and instead of the guy taking care or taking responsibility, they shy away of the responsibility and let the lady take care of it. Do you think we some guys, let me not generalize, some guys are running away from the responsibility? They don't want to be responsible and saying, oh, I did this, I got to be responsible for it.
I mean, if they had the child outside of marriage,
Mm-hmm.
it could have been a fling without like knowing the background. But seeing a child raised, especially when you're in house, is maybe the greatest feeling that you ever have when you get off work, you're tired, and the child runs up to you, arms open, smiling, I
Mm-hmm.
love you, daddy. Like it's hard to beat that. Now, not every relationship is beneficial for a child. Like if the parents are always fighting, it probably is better if they're separated. So, because both parents might love the child, but the parents are always fighting, so it's
Mm-hmm.
not good for the child to be raised like that. So some of it is warranted. There is a lot of men and women that have children and abandon them.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't pay child support, don't raise them. Um, it happens quite often.
So, what's the fun thing you do?
A fun thing that I do.
Yeah.
Like I said, I do that role playing like every 2 weeks, the
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore My Night thing. And then I play like PlayStation, and then me and the kids, we create our own games. We have this one game called Michael Myers, where we go to the park, and then me and like three or my two daughters, and they have like two or three kids with them. We'll have this small confined area, maybe the size of this room,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm Michael Myers. And if I tag you, I basically killed you. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking and they're running, but it might be the size of this room. So like they're sprinting, trying to get away from me while
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking around. It's sort of like a Dead by Daylight kind of thing. We'll like make up games like that,
Mm-hmm.
games that give cardio.
Wow, got you. You're an early investor in crypto,
Hmm.
and fortunately for you, you had someone who found your USB.
Yeah.
When did you lose the USB?
Yeah, like
Oh.
I temporarily lost it in a bear market.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I invested in Bitcoin what I considered late, and it was $90.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember reading, oh, it's too late. And I felt like a fool buying the Bitcoin for $90. I mean, it's like, what, $30,000 now. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously not now. But at the time, it always feels weird investing in something.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought it for 90. I bought like 20 of them. It went to 1,000 like a year later. And I sold a bunch. And then I was just watching it go up and down over the course of 10 years. And I didn't keep the stuff on exchanges. I would keep it in a USB drive in my closet.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while, I'd look at it and be like, oh, that's nice. It's up to 50,000. That's pretty cool. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'd forget about it for a couple more years. And then I looked, and the things I invested in were like several $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And I started look. I was like, oh, wait, where did I put that USB drive? So I started looking for it, and I had it locked somewhere and I could not find it.
Mm-hmm.
And then Roselle was cleaning my room and she's like, "Hey, what's this?" I'm like, "Oh my God, that's it."
Uh-huh.
So I plugged it in and it was a lot of money.
Yeah. When you saw that, like, what was running through your mind at that point?
Oh, it was so imagine just like a small investment and then like 10 years later
Mm-hmm.
it's $500,000. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're just, oh my
God.
God, this changes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So like we took like 100,000 out and like we bought a house, a car, vacations and stuff, and we still have quite amount. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're in a bear market right now,
Mm-hmm.
so it's in a USB drive in my closet again.
Okay, so did you learn being an investor from that experience, or you're just like, oh no, I just got to like roll?
So when I came back from my third deployment in Iraq,
Mm-hmm.
you get a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
because you're not paying for a hotel and food. You're just out there making money. So I had like $50,000 when I came back.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, Bitcoin sounds cool. I put 5,000 in there, not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 2,000 actually, but
Mm-hmm.
I just had a bunch of extra money and it wasn't a big deal to me at the time.
So you're not taking investing seriously right now?
Well, no, that was 10 years ago. Now I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely taking it seriously.
Yeah. So.
So I mean, I could talk for 10 hours about investing in bear markets and
Mm-hmm.
dollar cost averaging, down and things like that. But what I would suggest for people who's just going into it, start small.
Mm-hmm.
$20 a week. You won't even notice it. If you're making $600 a week, put $20 in it every week, maybe 25. That way it's an even 100 at the end of the month. And then yearly, that's $1.2 thousand. After a couple years, now it's 2.5 thousand, but that's not including, a bull market. A bull market, you could double or triple your money. Like, it might only be every 4 years that there's a bull market, but if you get $2, $3, $4, $5,000 in there, and then there's a bull market, you'll look one day and it'll be 15,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, oh my God. There's a saying: the hardest thing is to get the first 100,000. Going from 100,000 to a million is easy. The interest does it. The bull market does it. You don't even have to lift a finger. Going from 0 to 100 is what's difficult because you actually have to work for that money and then put the money in investments. Now, once you have the 100,000, you can finagle it and wait, and that 100,000 will become a million without you doing too much. You could really just sit on it, and eventually that $100,000 in stocks will go to a million unless the company goes under. But getting that 100,000 is what's difficult.
Wow. So if someone is watching this and is like, hey, Robert, wait a minute. And I have, let's just assume I have like $10,000 in my bank account right now, my savings account. What are you going to advise me to do?
Well, I'm not a financial advisor.
Yeah.
You can get sued for that.
Yeah.
But if it was me and I was starting out fresh and I had $10,000, I'm assuming my bills are paid already, because if they're not, you would want to pay them. But I would probably, right now, I would put $8,000 of it in either stocks or crypto, whatever they feel passionate about. I would recommend, if it was like my friend, I would tell him Bitcoin, because the Bitcoin halving is next year. So I would say put like 8 of it in there and then take 2,000, go on a vacation.
Yeah. So like you invest in something you feel passionate about and you have some information about it. Don't just put your money anywhere.
You have to put it where you believe.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of money in Cardano and Bitcoin and Ethereum, and Dogecoin is a personal passion of mine. I was there the day Dogecoin was created, and I invested in it day one when it was created. I bought 9 million Dogecoin for like $500.
Wow.
And if I didn't sell any of that, I would never have to work again. But you sell here and there.
Wow. Got you. Anyways, let's try to conclude this with your cooking skills. Like when you cook, do you feel like, hey, you're doing something that is kind of relaxing, or when you cook, how do you feel?
I wouldn't say it's relaxing to me. But when you cook, and especially when you get decent at it,
Mm-hmm.
you learn your own taste buds and
Mm-hmm.
you can customize the meal exactly to your own taste buds. And once you start doing that, nothing else really tastes as good getting it from other places because
Mm-hmm.
they don't customize it exactly to the T to how you like it.
Will you
Oh,
advise? Will you? Are you good? Will you advise everybody to learn how to cook?
oh yeah. I mean, it's a chore, you have to clean up for it.
Mm-hmm.
But the food that you make customized to your taste buds is amazing. Like I can't even eat at a lot of places because it's not as good as what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's a waste of money to pay $20 to go eat something substandard to what I can make
Mm-hmm.
for $4.
Okay, we're wrapping up now. I want you to say something to the audience that is gonna something great or something that you think is valuable that they need to learn about this and discipline. Do you think people need discipline nowadays better than before?
Oh yeah. Like I said, people get constant dopamine from watching TV or cell phones and things like that. And you need to learn how to be happy without that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, whether it's going to the park, whether it's just sitting down and reading a book, you need to be able to turn everything off and think
Mm-hmm.
without the need for a constant rush of dopamine. You need to find things that you love and start doing them. Because why aren't you doing them? But sometimes you need to figure out what you love because you might not even know what you love until you're 30 or 40
Mm-hmm.
because you're not putting yourself out there and testing new experiences. And you might do 10 things and seven of them you don't like, two of them you don't mind, but one of them you're like, oh my God,
Mm-hmm.
I've lived 30 years without enjoying this.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to put yourself out there. And I tell my kids, every time you learn a new skill, you start at level one.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to start at level one and then you level up from there. Even Einstein, didn't write the theory of relativity when he was 5 years old. He had to study, he had to start at level one in math and work his way up. Everyone starts at level one in every skill, whether that's acrobatics, whether that's darts or bowling, and then you have to go. But you have to be humble and start at level one and be a noob and get embarrassed before you get good. Like, for example, people are scared of karaoke. It's only because they haven't done it before. You do 20 hours of karaoke. When you find a song that resonates with you, it feels so good to just get on a mic and scream that. It feels, especially if it's something that's connecting with you, but you never have that experience and you never find the songs that make you feel like that until you step out there and start singing songs that you might not like.
Oh, thank you very much, guys. There you have it. Step out, take a chance on yourself, but you got to study yourself and be valuable before you do anything great. Thank you for coming to Benrolins Blueprint, Mr. Robert. I really appreciate you, man. It's been an honor. Hey guys, if you're listening to this podcast episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe, like, and share. Thank you very much.